Welcome to Flip the Word Friday. I am your amazing host, SJ Stevens. Before I get into the lesson, let me kind of give you guys a rundown of what Flip the Word Friday is. So, if you've known me any amount of time, you know the name Heathen to Holy is not just the saying, it's literally my real life. Like, if you know me from St. Louis, you know all the shenanigans, you know all of the drama, all of the misdeeds. And then if you met me in Charlotte, you had the opportunity to witness the growth. Here in Charlotte is where I found myself because God took everything from me, so I really had no choice. It's where I found my church family. It's where I really found who I was as a woman, and specifically a woman that has a desire to walk more Christ like. So, Heathen to Holy really is about this. I call it purgatory. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's what feels appropriate. This is like the purgatory between who I used to be and who I'm becoming. And I would be lying if I said it was easy, but you do not just wake up one day after doing something for 40 plus years and be like, oh, God has convicted me. I'm all better. I'm not saying that that has not happened to some people, but it's absolutely not been my experience. It has been a struggle. It has been a conscious effort to say to myself on multiple occasions, what would Jesus do? Now, Shamira, this is not what you should be doing as a Christian. Like, I literally have to have these conscious conversations with myself to kind of stay on track. So, Flip the Word Friday is where I am going to be pulling just not random because they all mean something to me, but I will be pulling scriptures out and we will talk about how the scriptures relate to real life and how to apply them to real life. Because something else that I've learned is like reading the Bible is amazing. Everybody should if that's your journey, but reading it does not mean that you understand it. Reading something and comprehending it is two totally different things. And so, in this journey, this part of life that I'm in right now, I want to understand. I am an author, I am a writer. So, reading is the easy part. But to be able to say, I read this scripture and it applies to my life in this way, and it also tells me I need to be doing this or I shouldn't be doing that. Like, that is a whole nother level. Or when somebody comes to me with the issue or a problem, my natural first response in my heathen phase of life was the girl, and now I can be like, Jeremiah 29 and 11. For I know the plans I have for you. Like, it is the intentionality of taking what I've read, taking what I've heard, and applying it to real life. So, yeah. Also, flip the word. This is my baby. And this is my baby because it stretches me, y'all. Say I got a note card. I do not have note cards, but I'm so intentional with this that I just want to do it right. I feel like God gave me this voice, this big old ghetto loud voice for a very specific reason. And because I want to steward this voice, how I feel like I'm being led to steward it, like I got notes. I got notes. And until I am fluid enough to not have notes, y'all gonna see this card every single Friday. Now, if you join me for Still Sunday, if you join me for open house, that is a conversation. Those come natural to me, right? But I feel like this part of my purpose, it feels natural, but it also is very much more intentional. It is very much, I studied for this. Like, y'all, I've been studying for this for a couple of weeks. You'll see what I mean. I'll say that, but I did want to give that disclaimer because this is totally different for me. If you've been around since the the uglier side of the truth, if you've been around for the friendships over 35, you know SJ is one thing. You know SJ is one person. And this is a side of SJ that I don't think I ever even expected to expose. It just kind of, God said, girl, quit playing. And here I am, not playing no more. So that is kind of what this setup looks like. I encourage you guys to Read these scriptures with me, because again, I've always said I am the exception to nobody's rule. If something happens to me, it can happen to somebody else, and if it happens to somebody else, it very much can happen to me. And so I don't feel like there's a whole lot that I've experienced or that I've walked through that somebody else has not. And so the goal is like, let's grow together, let's learn together. When I was younger, and I thought of like church people, it was very strict. It was a very big hat. It was very long dress. It was very big white shoes and tights. And, it was way more, it was just, it was a little bit more sacred, but it looked a certain way. I'll say that. It looked a certain way. And then now when you look at, church people and Christians, you see the people like me. We have tattoos. We've gone through certain areas in life that have led us here. And so those are the people that I am talking to. I am talking to the people like me where 3 years ago you never could have gotten me to talk about God in public, let alone with a camera in my face. Even when I did 31 days of SJ, which just ended in August, I spent the majority of that fighting this urge. I would say, I'm not gonna quote the Bible because I don't want to get it wrong. I ain't that good yet. Like, I went back and I listened to that and I said that phrase at least 50 times over 31 days. And it was like, why? Why do I keep saying this? And I just feel like because it was God telling me, you absolutely are. Who you trying to trick, me or you? Because I already know what you're getting ready to do. And here I am getting ready to do it, y'all. So this week's scripture, and again, I'm not going to quote it because I don't want to mess it up, so I wrote it out. James 3:1. Not many of you should become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. And the reason why I picked this scripture to be the lead scripture of this beautiful Flip the Word Fridays is because I don't think a lot of people realize how heavy the weight of the mic is. Like, and I actually learned it last year when I did 31 days of SJ. Yeah, the level of just criticism, the level of judgment, the level of stereotyping that people did. And I was like, I don't even know y'all. Like, in my mind, this is just something that I'm doing on Facebook because I wasn't on YouTube. This is something I'm doing on Facebook. Like, these are my friends, these are my family, they know me. And it was people from everywhere. It was thousands of people from everywhere that were looking at these little snippets that I'm putting out, and they are literally, I mean, I had men in my inbox going crazy, calling me names, threatening me. Like, it was literally a mess. And I was like, why are y'all responding like this? Like, this is what I meant. I said this, I meant this. How did you come up with that? And what it was, y'all, and my friend told me the other day, he said, when you put yourself in these positions, when you put yourself on this platform, when you open this side of your life to the world, people are going to take what you say and spin it however they want to, and you literally have no control over that. You cannot tell somebody how to interpret what you put out there. And I'm in my mind, y'all, I'm like, no, but this is what I meant. This is how I meant it. That is, and he was like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but that's just not how the world works. People are going to take what you say and they are going to interpret it however they want to. So either you need to step back from the platform and like make sure you're mentally ready for that, or you need to be a little bit more careful in what you say. And I was like, but I know what I meant. And he was like, that doesn't matter. What you meant and what you said and how people received it are not always going to be the same thing. And it just really made me realize, like, to me, y'all, when I do things like this, except for Flip the Word, because I'm really being intentional about this, but anything I've ever done before this, I've always taken pride. Like, I just shoot from the hip. I say whatever comes to mind. I say my feelings. I'm very intentional to say these are my thoughts. These are my feelings. Like, it doesn't mean you have to agree with me. Like, I don't disagree with people on social media, or if I do, it's like the most agreeable disagree you'll ever see. Like, I respect people's opinions. I try to see things from all sides of the coin, but I had to realize that just because that's how I view things, that's not how people have to view things. He was absolutely right. And so what that means for me, it was either don't put yourself in these spaces, Shamara, or You have to be intentional about what you say. You have to steward the words that God gave you a little bit better than what you are. And like, I actually feel like that's why God did not let me do the podcast last year. So if you were around last year, I did a Friendships Over 35 series. It was amazing. I did 2 live shows. One was in Charlotte, one was in St. Louis. I did 3 virtual shows. I did a book. Like, it was an amazing thing, right? And in my mind, it was over with in August or September. In my mind, by the beginning of the year, I would have a whole platform. I had a card game mapped out. I had 135 guests signed up to be on the podcast. I had a 6 city tour mapped out. Like, I had every single thing planned out, every detail, every dollar. I knew what I was going to talk about when. I just knew everything, right? And then God literally said to me, no. And if you know me, I don't do well with no's. I was like, what you mean no? Like, I didn't create a flyer. I didn't put it out there. I got people signed up. I got people from different cities offering to host. What do you mean no? And I never got an explanation. Like, if you know me too, I fast now. Like, I'm a church girl. I'm going to go to church on Sundays. I'm going to go to Bible study several times during the week. I'm going to do groups. I'm going to do devotionals. I'm going to do all the things. I'm like, God, okay, what's the rest? Like, you told me no, but what's the rest of the no? I never heard a word. I never heard a word. So in this time, I'm like, well, maybe I'm just not supposed to be doing this. Or maybe I'm not technically ready to do this. So I enrolled in a journalism course. I'm like, maybe he wants me to be like more professional, not the sensationalized stuff. Maybe just more professional. So I take the classes, y'all. I get the equipment. I'm doing all of these like external things. And God still said no. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, when I say I cried, y'all, because I have very rarely ever said publicly that I was going to do something that I did not do. I pride myself on, if I say it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I now recognize that this process that I went through, that was God showing me, baby, I let you have your way a little bit, but like, you're not in control. You not running nothing. You don't tell me what you're going to do. I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. And I, in fact, am going to tell you how to do it. That's exactly what he did. So through this process, I'm like, okay, well, I guess, let me focus back on church. So I really, really, really focus on church, y'all, right? And I'm learning more and I'm growing more. And so I looked back at the flyer that I created for the All Things Over 35 podcast. And it was a beautiful picture. Like, it was beautiful. It was my first photo shoot in Charlotte. Like, my tongue out, my makeup is beat for the guys. Got my little cleavage out. And I said, I can't post that picture. I can't share that. I do not know why. It's one of my favorite pictures of me. But I said, and I changed the picture. I changed the picture to one really pretty picture still, but I'm in a blazer, I'm in jeans. And I was like, why did I do that? I don't know. And then you know how God be so funny sometimes when you're going through something and then you go to church, they talk about whatever you're going through and you be like, hey, I go to church and PB, which is the pastor at one of the churches here, he talked about how you may not be doing anything wrong, but if you tempt people to do things wrong, it's just as bad. So you need to be mindful of what you post. You need to be mindful of what you say. You do not want to invite or invoke the spirit of like lust or, doing the wrong thing. You don't want to invoke that in nobody else either. So I was like, oh, that's why I couldn't use my picture, because like most women, you post a pretty picture, your inbox goes crazy. But I never thought about it that way. But at that moment, I was like, okay, God is talking to me. He talking kind of like, I don't understand it fully, but that was for me. That's why I changed the picture. So I'm still ready. I'm ready to press forward. And God was like, no. He kept saying no, y'all. And when I say I'm struggling, and what I now know without taking y'all through the whole year-long journey was the reason why that podcast did not happen it would have been successful. Let me be clear. It would have did exactly what it needed to do. I've been doing this thing since 2020. Since 2020, I've released 7 books. I've done live roundtables with 10,000 viewers. I've helped 24 authors. Like I have, and I don't have a huge following, but I have enough of a following and enough charisma that if I put it out there in the right platform at the right time, it'll do what I needed it to do. God didn't want me to do that, y'all, because I was not going to be talking about the right stuff. I was going to be, and I won't say everybody because I do not like to generalize. It happens, so bear with me, but I was going to be just like anybody else with a good camera, with a good Galaxy camera. Let me be clear. I was going to be like everybody else. I was going to get on this platform and this amazing voice and this amazing mind and this amazing transformation that God has taken me through was going to get lost in the social media shuffle, because I was going to talk about what everybody else was talking about, what I saw get the clicks, what I saw get the shares. We were going to talk about men and relationships and 50-50 and soft girl eras. We were going to talk about everything that everybody else was already talking about, and God said, no, you won't. I gave you this voice and you will use it exactly how I intend for you to use it. And so that's why he made me wait. Y'all, when I say you could never have paid me to talk about God publicly 2 years ago, even though I'm at church, y'all, faithful, every day, servant, leader, you couldn't have paid me, because it wasn't the image that people had of me. Again, heathen to holy. People knew me as the loudmouth, curse you out. She gonna read you to the ground. She gonna check you for the gods. That's what I was known as. She was gonna make you laugh. She was gonna talk crap. That's what I was known as. And that's what I was leading with. And God said, no, that's not you no more. And what I mean by that's not you anymore, like I feel like he gave me the grace of Still Sunday and Open House on Wednesday. Those are a little bit more kind of SJ-ish, but this here on this Friday, this is God's doing, y'all. This don't have nothing to do with me. This literally is him saying, I gave you the voice and you're going to use it how I want you to use it. You're not going to missteward these things that I've given you, this favor that I've given you, this grace that I've shown you. I took you through some of the worst times of your life, and here you are, thriving. Your kid is doing amazing. Your skin glowing. You have a faith you've never had. You have a relationship with God you've never had. You are a whole new person. I did not do all of that for you not to share that transformation with the world. If I had done all things over 35, nobody would have seen it. Nobody would have knew the transformation except for the people that were the closest to me, and they only would have seen what I let them see. God literally told me, either you're going to do it my way or you're not going to do it at all. And that's how we get back to James 3:1. Not many of you should become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. God knew if I had did that mess last year, people were going to drag me through the mud. It was going to come back up again. I was going to say something, probably would have went viral for saying the wrong thing. I got a career. I'm literally walking around somebody's church most Sundays trying to lead people to the Lord. Every other horrible thing that I had ever done was going to come right back out, because once you put yourself in this space, you open yourself up to everything. God made me wait because the level of accountability that I would have had to have, I did not. Even when my friend the other day was saying, like, people see you as a subject matter expert. Like, you do all these podcasts, you do these talks, you speaking in public, you writing books, you this, that, and the other. People listen to you. And, like, I knew people listened because, like, I get messages literally, y'all, every day. I get voicemails. I get the feedback of how I've helped people and how they look for me for advice, and people trying to schedule consultations and talk to me. And I'm like, I'm just talking. Like, I am literally just talking. And God said, no, you're not just talking. You are influencing. You may not influence everybody. You may not be like on the Kitty Rose level or the last night's conversation level or the in totality level. But where you are, there are still people that are watching you. There are still people that are looking at every single thing you do and listening to every single thing you say. I am not giving you a platform for you to be out here clowning, cursing, cutting up, And then you'll turn around and be like, but I'm a church girl. You're going to be either all in or you're going to be all out. And I'm not going to give you this voice until you decide. My expectation was people that are listening to me will know me. So even if I don't say it right, you know what I mean. That's not how that works. What you say is what people hear, and then how they interpret it, it depends on where they're at. It depends on their life experiences. So I can't control that part, but I can control what comes out of my mouth. Like, it is my responsibility to control what comes out of my mouth, to be more intentional about what comes out of my mouth. Like, it takes me back to when I did 31 days of SJ last year. So one of the hot topics was men being providers and what that meant. I was speaking from my own personal experience. I've only ever lived with two men, and neither of those men said, give me 50-50. It's just not been my experience. I have been blessed with men that they do for me. They are providers. They are the head of the household. If I work 2 jobs, they work 3. Like, I have been blessed with people who do certain things. All I was saying was, I think that a man is a provider. I think that a man is a provider because that has been my experience. We typically have beliefs based on what we've gone through. That's what I said. And what I was saying to women was, if that's what you want, there are men that would do that. If you don't mind 50-50 or 40-30, 40-60 or whatever works in your household works. But if you as a woman say, I want a man to do this, there are men that do that. That's literally all I was saying. What the men heard was, you are promoting prostitution. You are telling women that they should only date men with money. If he don't have money, you should not talk to him. I've never said that. I've never, in fact, believed that. I am the person that, when I met my ex-husband, he was a car salesman. By the time I left, he was a 6-figure owner-operator. Not that I did the work for him, but I provided the support. I worked 70 hours a week while he was in truck driving school. You know what I'm saying? I cashed out my pension to help us. It wasn't just me helping him, but to help us. So, like, I say that to say, I am also a provider. I also do the things that need to be done. Everything is different for your household. But once I did those things for him, he just took care of me. He took care of us. He took care of it. So I was just telling the girlies, like, there are men that do that. That's not what people heard. And it made me just really realize that you have to either be very careful about what you say, or just not say certain things. Let me be clear. Or you have to be tough enough to withstand the backlash, because people are going to judge you, because you're putting yourself in a space to be judged. Like, nobody's knocking on your door asking you these questions. You are voluntarily pulling out a camera and talking. You putting people in your business, so you don't get to be like, don't say this about me, or don't think this about me, or don't. That's exactly what they're going to do. So, like, it just really showed me the weight of this mic, y'all. Like, you have to be so careful. Like, when God gives you a gift, you have to know how to steward that gift. You have to know how to even how you respond to things. Like, a couple weeks ago, I had a thing on Facebook where I was going toe to toe with this lady. I mean, she started it. Let's be clear. She started it, but I'm like, I got it. SJ from the West Side. I can do this. And then I instantly stopped and was like, no, you will not. No, you will not. Again, you're not going to get on this platform and be like, Jesus, 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 and then be on Facebook like you're your mama, your daddy, and your ugly kids. No, you're not. Like, you have to be able to withstand the criticism. You have to be able to withstand the judgment. You have to steward your words properly, so hopefully there's no misunderstanding, but you also have to understand there's always going to be a misunderstanding. People are not all going to understand what you're talking about. They're not going to know your heart. They don't know you. Are you ready for that? Are you ready for that? Can you handle the weight of what you've been praying for? I can't just say whatever come to mind. I can't just do whatever I want to do. I have to speak with integrity. I have to let my actions and my words match. I have to be prepared for the criticism, for the harsh words, for the judgment. And I have to be strong enough to say, this is what I know I meant. Now, if it's something that I'm just completely wrong in, I'll go back and correct it. But otherwise, I have to be confident enough to say, That's not what I meant. That's not my heart. But I'm also not going to engage in a back and forth. I'm not going to engage in a tit for tat. I'm not going to have a Facebook war with somebody about my words, because that's what the devil wants me to do. The enemy wants me to get on here and say, I'm a church girl, and then get into a social media fight because somebody disagreed with me. You can't do that. Like, your words matter, your integrity matter, and when you get behind this mic, how you handle all of those things matter more than you may think. So y'all, that is it. Like, this was different for me, and then, again, this is the first one. It'll get better as time goes on, but like, y'all know how funny it is for me to be talking about God, for me to be like in front of a camera having this conversation, and knowing that I'm still learning, but that I am vulnerable enough because God made me recognize how powerful my voice is, that I'm vulnerable enough to do this in front of people. I'm vulnerable enough to do this in front of the world. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen, y'all, but this is where I'm at. This is what God told me I should be doing. So here I am doing it. So thank you so much for joining me for my very first episode, my hardest episode, the episode that stretched me the most, but my very first episode of my baby Flip the Word. Um, I know it wasn't perfect, y'all, but like, this particular segment means so much to me. It'll get better. It'll get better. So I will see you guys on Sunday for Still Sundays at 2 p.m. and then next Wednesday for open house at 8 p.m. Have an amazing rest of your day.